Well, it's Pride now, so let's talk about some gay shit. Hi, my name is Charles, and today I'm going to be talking about some LGBTQ movies that I think are underrated. The movies that I'm going to be going over today are movies that are all, well regarded movies, but I just don't feel like there's a lot of talk around them necessarily. Not like a Brokeback Mountain or a Carol or even a Call Me By Your Name. These movies I feel like didn't generate enough talk when they came out or even now. I thought it would be fun to make this video so, people who like movies like this can get, more of a variety of movies because I feel like there is a very slim picking of movies covering LGBTQ people in a very good way. So I was like, maybe I'll talk about some of the ones that I've watched and also own that I think are really good. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first movie I want to talk about is Center of My World. It's a German film. It came out in 2016 and I forget who it's directed by, but it stars Louis Hoffman, and I believe he was on that show Dark that was on Netflix, so yeah. So basically, Center of My World is a coming of age story, boy meets another boy, he doesn't know if he likes him or not, and it's just them basically falling in love, while him also dealing with his like family life, which is hectic. And yeah, I was just surprised when I watched this movie for the first time, and I believe 2017, it was a complete knockout for me. I was just like, wow, this is a very poignant coming of age story. Sure, the story of the movie is mainly about, the main character falling in love with this guy, his classmate, but what was going on with the main character's family is even more interesting to me, as I just said. I mean, when you can make the B storyline even more interesting than the A storyline, then that's impressive to me. As I've said, both storylines are great, and together they make a really good movie, and the performances from all the actors is also great. And the best thing about this movie for me, to be honest, is that, you get to see gay shit happening. It is not like one of those things where they allude to it and they like move on to the next scene. It's like, no, you get to see people having gay sex and they are naked, and it's like, baby, that's what I'm talking about. In the year 2016, you guys did that. You know who didn't do that? Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer in Call Me By Your Name. Baby, I will always call them out for that. I will always call them out for not doing really anything but kissing. Seriously, if you're a movie made after 2010 and you ain't serving up like gay people doing more than kissing, then baby, you get an X from me. Okay, the next movie I want to talk about is Colette, directed by Wash Westmoreland, and it stars Keira Knightley and Dominic West. Colette is the movie of, Colette, the person who wrote Gigi. Gigi, the best picture-winning film Gigi. But yeah, that's like her most famous work. But yeah, Colette, we get to see her when she's young and how she marries her husband. And then how her husband pushes her to write these stories because, she has a lot of stories to tell. And he's like, maybe you should just write these stories down. And once she writes them down, he publishes them in his own name. And, they become a big hit. But, Colette gets none of, the credit. And as time goes on, she's like, I deserve credit. And, she also breaks gender, norms, gender barriers, all that stuff because, she'd be having a lesbian lover. And I'm just like, you know what, Colette? You do that, girl. You do that. Break free from your gross husband. This movie came out in 2018. I believe it premiered at Sundance, so in January of 2018, and then it came out, I believe, in the summer or fall of 2018 for awards season, and I was just disappointed. I was disappointed, you guys, when this movie didn't even get Keira Knightley the nomination, because Keira Knightley is sublime in Colette, and it's one of her best performances. It's one of her best performances, and the fact that she didn't get any nominations for this at all, it just breaks my heart. This movie is just so beautifully crafted that I just don't understand how it didn't get a single Oscar nomination. I mean, maybe because the distributor is Bleecker Street and they're not the best with award season stuff yet, so maybe that's why it flopped awards season wise, but I just think that Keira Knightley should have got an Oscar nomination because she is just sublime in this movie and gives one of the best performances of her career. That final scene between Keira and Dominic West, that was her Oscar moment. That was her Oscar moment. Watching it, I was like, this is the moment in the movie that they'd be playing at the ceremony when they call out her name and her, like, performance for, the movie. And, oh my gosh, I just saw it happening, and then it didn't happen, and notch. Seriously, Keira Knightley be doing the lesbian shit in this movie, and she was honestly serving, and my mind was like, Timothy and Armie, once again, I'm calling y'all out because Keira Knightley don't even really get naked in this movie, does she? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I should rewatch it. But I don't believe that she actually shows anything. But my mom was like, girly did that. and she gave us more than just kissing with the person that she was with in this movie, and I was like, once again, Army and Timothy, y'all are trash. The other gays really be going for Timothy Chalamet, and I'm like, why? Why? He didn't even serve that much in Call Me By Your Name. I mean, the performance in Call Me By Your Name is great, but like doing gay shit in that movie is minimum. So I was like, I'm not standing Timothy the way y'all are standing him. I mean, I stand Lucas Hedges more than I stand Timothy. And honestly, with recent things that have been coming up, like, I'm pretty sure there are pictures of Lucas and his boyfriend, both of them looking very androgynous together. I'm like, I knew I went behind the right guy. But yeah, Colette, watch it because once again, it's a great film. All the movies I'm going to be talking about are great movies. But this one is, about lesbians, or at least, Colette is bisexual. And we don't get enough, bisexual representation in film, and also not enough lesbian representation in film. So that's why I'm like, y'all should watch this one. The fact, though, that it has to be a period piece, that's so sad. But you know what? Keira Knightley excels at period pieces. And, she stated that, she does period pieces because those are where women get the more interesting roles. Because she says that when people are in modern times, women don't really get much to do. So I'm just like, yeah, that is kind of true. So you keep doing what you're doing, Kira. The next movie I'm going to talk about is Disobedience, starring Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, directed by Sebastian Lelio. And this movie technically came out in 2017, but I got to see it in theaters in 2018. You haven't heard what Disobedience is about? Well, Disobedience is basically about Rachel Weisz's character having to go back to her childhood home because her father's died, who, her father is a very prominent figure in the Jewish community, of like the religious Jewish community. So she has to go back there because, you gotta pay your respects. And there, she's basically given the eye by everyone being like, oh, this girl's back? Isn't she a lesbian? That's why she had to leave. But basically Rachel Weisz comes back and she meets Rachel McAdams, who she had like a crush and a thing with when they were younger. But you know what? She was like, I gotta stay away from this girl because it's not good. But the two of them just cannot stay away from each other. And passions reignite. But things don't always go the way they should go. This is a very quiet movie. I mean, there aren't a lot of dramatic moments happening in the movie, but when there are big moments, they are also quiet, but they are really good. I mean, the scene where Rachel McAdams and Rachel Weisz finally sleep together again, it's like, wow. Sparks fly, electricity, I might die, said Miranda Cosgrove, but there is spitting involved, and in my mind, when I saw that, I said, Armie Hammer and Timothy Chalamet, you are once again up to the chopping block, and I'm about to decapitate both of y'all because y'all did basically nothing but kissing, but at least Rachel and Rachel be spitting each other's mouths, so they be doing the shit, but unlike you, grabbing Armie's crotch is not enough. Not enough for me. Also, there's a scene in the movie where Rachel McAdams and her husband in the movie, played by, what's that guy's name? I like him. Give me 1 second. Okay, her husband in the movie is played by Alessandro Nivola, and I love him. He's in Junebug. But anyway, the two of them are arguing in the kitchen when there are other people in the house, and basically they're arguing, and Rachel McAdams at the end of the argument is just like, I want my freedom, and baby, you escape. You gotta escape this community, because it doesn't seem like lesbians or gay people in general are supported here. As I've said, this movie is a very quiet movie, and it's also very muted when it comes to the colors in the movie, and obviously that serves a purpose, but I just couldn't get over the fact that the movie was so muted in color. But at the end of the day, it was still a very moving and beautiful story, even though I had to put up with a lot of like religious stuff in it. The last scene between Rachel and Rachel, devastating. Just thinking about it right now kind of makes me cry because it was so powerful. But moving on. The next movie I want to talk about is End of Century, directed by Lucio Castro. It's his first feature movie, and this movie is so moving, so beautiful, and it's super short at 1 hour and 20 minutes. What is End of Century? Well, End of Century is about two men who meet each other for the first time in Barcelona. They get together and, they talk about, themselves, and they slowly but surely remember that they've met each other 20 years ago. Okay, first off, I gotta say that the movie is super hot. I mean, the sex scenes in the movie are amazing to watch. I mean, I think there are only 2 sex scenes in the movie, like once the two meet up and they hook up, and then like once toward the end. But both were super powerful, and I was like, yes, honey, this is what we want. This is what we want in film. Next, I gotta talk about the story because, as I said, this movie is about 2 men who meet up in Barcelona, and they think they don't know each other, but after talking to each other, they realize they both met each other 20 years like ago, and my mind was like, wait, what? When that was revealed and they both realized it. I mean, I guess you're realizing at the same time as they are, and it was just so like wow. And then when they realized they met each other 20 years ago, like it flashbacks all the way there, and I'm like, ooh, this is like so weird but super cool, and I was just really amazed by the story. The chemistry between the two main actors is exquisite. Both of them are super attractive, but both of them brought like an emotional heft to this movie. By the end of the movie, when like there's like this thing that happens, and I was like, is this really happening? And then when it turned out it wasn't happening, I was like, oh, okay, sure. Sure, give me a moment, please. This is the movie that introduced me to the song Space Age Love Song from Flock of Seagulls, so I will forever be grateful for this movie for introducing me to that song because that song is just so exquisite and the way it's used in this movie is just so perfect. And watching that scene where the song is playing, I'm just like, my heart is bursting with such happiness and joy for the two of these people. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about the movie anymore because I want you to watch it in its entirety and not really have it spoiled. So go watch it because, as I said, it's only an hour and 20 minutes and it's just such a beautiful movie that you should go into it pretty blind and just savor every minute of it. Once again, it must be said, Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer, I'm probably going to be dragging them throughout this whole video because all these movies, all the actors are doing more than they did in Call Me By Your Name. The next movie I want to talk about is another Sebastian Lelio directed movie, which is A Fantastic Woman. Basically, A Fantastic Woman is the story of a transgender woman who's like partner has died, and you know, basically she wants to go to his funeral, but his family is like, ew, get away from us, you are not connected to our father in any way. And basically she is shut out, and the story is just her trying to like say goodbye to her partner, her lover, while these people are being so horrible to her. And not only the people but the police, who think they're treating the main character with like respect and trying to help her, but they're really degrading her. My God, this movie was something I looked forward to when I heard about it, and it did not disappoint one bit. The main character, Marina, is just so strong, but you know, at the same time, she's fragile because who should be subjected to all this crazy shit that she's being subjected to? There's a scene in the movie where, like, the family of her now dead boyfriend is, like, basically kidnapping her and, like, doing stuff with duct tape to her, and it was so hard to watch that scene because I was so scared for her life. This movie brings up an excellent point for why people who are in the LGBTQ community need to have like the right to marry, because if they don't marry the person they're with, then like that person's family could basically be like, we don't want you anywhere near like the funeral, you have no claim to anything and we're just gonna take everything. And that's just awful when people do that in real life. My favorite scene in this movie is when Marina is daydreaming and it just shows her performing in a nightclub and she's wearing like this outfit made of, I don't know, it's not fringe, it's some sort of material, and she's just dancing around and there's colors everywhere and people are dancing with her, and I was like, this is the serve. This movie won Best Foreign Film at the Oscars in its award season, and it was very well deserved, and I'm just happy that Sebastian Lelio has an Oscar because he has made so many movies that I love, and I just can't wait to see what's next for him, and also for, you know, Daniela Vega, the star of this movie, because I need to see more work from her. But you know what? She didn't even think she was going to star in this movie. She thought she was just going to consult on it, but you know what? I'm glad she starred in it because she is amazing in it. The next movie I want to talk about is God's Own Country, directed by Francis Lee, I'm pretty sure is his name, and it stars Josh O'Connor, and I forget the other guy's name, which is horrible of me. Okay, the other main guy in the movie, his first name is Alec in real life, but I can't say his last name because it's so long and I don't know how to say it, so it's just Alec. Anyways, this movie is basically about like a guy who works on his family's farm and they need help, so they hire this immigrant to come work with them, and basically he falls in love with his like helper now, so basically the two of them are in a relationship. But you know, it's just basically him trying to figure things out because he's not really an out gay person, and I think his father in the movie isn't very supportive and he's unsure of his mother, so it's just him trying to figure out who he is as a person. And yeah, once again, this is a very beautiful movie like all the other movies I said that are beautiful, but this one, it was really giving me Brokeback Mountain 2.0 vibes when I watched it in, what year did this come out? 2017. This movie came out in 2017. Anyways, yeah, this was giving me very Brokeback Mountain, especially when the sex scenes happened because they were very dirty sex scenes, as in like, they didn't look pretty at all the way they were filmed, and I mean, I guess that's the point because they were working on a farm, so there were sheep everywhere, and I was just like, y'all really be having sex being like gross after like doing stuff with the animals. I mean, okay, mud everywhere, okay, sure, it's cold where you guys are at, okay. I was like, sure, yep, still have that gay sex though. The emotional arc of Josh O'Connor's character in this movie is really everything because he goes from not knowing what he really wants in life and, hiding behind drinking and all these things to like make him not actually think about the things he needs to coming to realize what he needs in life. And even though Alex's character is kind of just there to help Josh O'Connor's character like figure things out, I think they had a pretty nice relationship. So I was like, it's okay. Seriously, if Josh and Alec could have very gross farm sex, then Timothy and Army could have had very nice, pleasant sex in Italy in that house. So once again, y'all on the chopping block, because y'all just did not do it. Have I seen Ammonite yet, which is directed by the same director of this movie? No. Do I own it? Yes. Do I gotta watch it? Yes. But when will I watch it? Only time will tell. But you know what? I love God's Own Country a lot. And I'm just like, people say Ammonite's not as good. They say it's a watered down version of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But I'm willing to still check it out. I mean, eventually. Okay, the next movie I want to talk about is La of Desire from Pedro Almodovar, starring Antonio Banderas, Carmen Mura, and I don't know how to say the other main character's name, but he's there too, and he's great. The movie is about a gay filmmaker who gets into a relationship with a crazy, obsessed fan, but he's still in love with his former love who moved away, so there's that. And then the movie's also dealing with the gay filmmaker's sister who's trans, and her complicated relationship with the Catholic Church. All I gotta really say about this movie is it is crazy, it is very Pedro Almodovar, and young Antonio Banderas can do whatever he wants to me because, baby, he might have been crazy in this movie, but he was serving body yaddy yaddy, and he was serving very cute but sexy, and ooh, 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 ooh. The sex scenes in this movie, even though not the most revealing, are still pretty great. And Pedro Almodovar pushed the envelope as much as he could at the time of this movie. So, baby, Pedro Almodovar always does the work, especially when it comes to LGBTQ things. So I'm just like, whatever he can serve up, clearly that's as much as, he could or he needs to because of what he's trying to tell with the story. If y'all haven't seen a Pedro Almodovar movie, what are you doing? What are you doing? Pedro Almodovar and, Todd Haynes are the gay directors of our modern times who are serving it to us like Douglas Sirk. I mean, they are both always referencing Douglas Sirk in their movies, so y'all should be eating these two people's movies up, but y'all ain't talking about their movies enough. I mean, the people who are in the know that Pedro Almodovar and Todd Haynes are always serving it, but the mainstream general public ain't talking about their work like that. So I need more people to talk about their work like that because their work are amazing. Art is amazing. The ending of this movie left me so unsatisfied, but that's just the way it ended, and I was like, okay, I guess. This is the only movie that I don't own physically, and somebody needs to change that. I mean, Criterion Collection, you guys have Pedro Almodovar's movies in your collection. I mean, you have at least 3, All About My Mother, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, and Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, so you guys should just add Law of Desire to your collection because it's a great movie, and I would love to see a restored version of this movie because, ooh, crazy, hot, young Antonio Banderas doing gay shit, yes, we need that fully restored. The next movie I want to talk about is Maurice from James Ivory, starring James Wilby, Rupert Graves, and Hugh Grant. Basically, this movie is about James Wilby's character who falls in love with Hugh Grant's character, and the two of them love each other, but because of the time, they can't be together. So basically, James Wilby, who's the main character of the movie, he's basically just trying to work through, like, being super oppressed and not being able to express how he really feels about his love for Hugh Grant. But he slowly but surely falls in love with Rupert Graves in the movie, and the movie is just basically about oppressiveness and how, like, the culture of the time oppressed gay people. This movie really sets up the relationship between James Wilby and Hugh Grant up really well, but the relationship between James Wilby and Rupert Graves, even though it's not set up as well as, the one between him and Hugh Grant, it's set up pretty well, and we actually get to see James Wilby and Rupert Graves naked together, so hey, that's a plus at least. James Ivory is that bitch, and if he was the one directing Call Me By Your Name and not Luca Guadagnino, even though Luca Guadagnino's a gay man, he said, oh, I didn't make them do gay sex together, like, this gay sex scenes, but, like, I know if it was James Ivory, he'd be like, both of y'all. buck naked in bed doing shit now. It is 2016. What are y'all doing? God, I'm a sucker for movies with yearning, especially gay yearning. Ugh. Mm-mm-mm-mm. The next movie I'm going to talk about is Mysterious Skin, directed by Gregor Rocky, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I forget the other guy's name, but he's the one who did Vox Lux. I'm pretty sure it's Brady Corbett is his name. This movie really is about trauma, and when I'm talking about trauma, I'm talking about some big gay trauma, some child molestation trauma, and basically the movie is just the two main characters trying to figure things out. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character knows what happened when he was young, but Brady Corbett's character doesn't, so the movie is just working its way over to both of them realizing how this has affected their lives. I'll never forget the rape scene that happens in this movie because I was crying so much tears watching it because it was just so violent and so scary, and I was just very, very scared watching it. I was like, this is why I do not like to go to random hookups because I'm afraid. Gregor Rocky is a filmmaker that should be working more and Hollywood shouldn't have let down because he has a lot of great movies and I'm just like, dang, how come he doesn't make any big indie movies? The last movie I want to talk about is Stranger by the Lake, and I cannot pronounce the director of this name or the stars. So yeah, Stranger by the Lake. This movie is about, gay cruising. There's this lake, a bunch of gay men go there, and it's a site for cruising. And, the main character of this movie starts falling in love with this mysterious man, not really knowing that he is a murderer and that he's killing gay men at this lake. And yeah, that's really all you need to know about this movie. The sex scenes in this movie, mind-blowing and hot. This was 2013 when this movie was made, or at least came out, and they were doing the damn thing before anyone else was, so kudos to this movie. The ending of this movie had me gagged because I was like, really? I would have stayed away. But, horniness gets the best of us. Okay, with that, those are 10 movies that I would recommend you watch if you want to watch movies about LGBTQ people this month. They are all great movies, as I said, and they all deserve to be watched. Tell me down below in the comments what you guys thought about these movies if you've seen them. Do you like them? I think all these movies are great, and they all are very hot. They're all very hot to watch because they all have good sex scenes. I mean, not a Fantastic Woman. There's no sex scene in that movie, but that movie is just purely great on its own merits without a sex scene, so very rare that we can have a movie where it stars gay characters or people in the LGBT community and there's no sex scene in it and I'm just fine with it. That movie is just, wow, amazing. All these movies are amazing, as I've said. Anyways, you guys, thank you for coming to my channel and watching this whole video, and yeah, I'll see you guys around if you decide to watch another video on my channel, so until then, I'm gonna go now, so yes, bye!